Hello, it's Colette. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. This video is different from what I normally do because it's not a coffee and chat and it's not so much a spiritual one. It's just something I want to share with you. And it probably is going to be quite long and a lot in it. And there's quite a traumatic experience of mine. And also what came out of it spiritually and what I know about the afterlife because of it. But one of my reasons of wanting to tell my story was that there's so many people have gone through what I went through many years ago, and I and my daughter are trying to lift the taboo about this subject. So I want to do this, and it'll probably be upsetting, but here we go, okay? Trigger warning, this is about my miscarriage. So if you've had a miscarriage and you feel it'll trigger you, please don't watch. But if you feel you still need help and you don't want to watch, please know that I'll put contact numbers, etc. in the description box. If you're in the UK, for where you can get help, and I wish you well in that. And if you stay, well, here goes. In a couple of days, it'll be 26 years, 26 years since I had a miscarriage. And that seems a long time, but on the day of the anniversary of it, I find things quite difficult. Now, I've seen my boy in spirit and I'll tell you about that later, but the day itself I can be quite low, insular, and I try to tell people about miscarriage. It does get better, but there's always triggers and there's always wee points that can maybe send you back. And I don't think that maybe people who haven't suffered a miscarriage totally understand what it feels like. So that's why I'm going to be very, very truthful with my story. Not just about my miscarriage, but things that also have happened after it, and also the spiritual side of it. So if you feel that this may be for you, then please stay. And if you feel that it's not, then that's okay too. I know a lot of people that are on my channel for spiritual reasons might be interested in it, might not. They might be more interested in the spiritual aspect, which I'll tell in the kind of nearer the end. And I know that there might just be people that are here because of miscarriage, and my heart goes out to you. And I wish I could give you all a big hug and make things better, but I know I can't. But if this will trigger you, please don't watch. But if you feel that you want to know someone else's story and also the things that happened after it, particularly spiritually, then please continue watching, and we'll take it from there. Right, so my miscarriage. I'd had my first child, and it was a little girl, and she was about 3.5 maybe when we started maybe trying for another baby. And my pregnancy with her was fine. It was difficult near the end because I had preeclampsia, but the actual pregnancy itself was pretty straightforward, and the way you should feel and the way that scans should look, etc. So it wasn't traumatic until maybe more near the end. So went into my second pregnancy delighted that I fell quite quickly after we made the decision to try, and right from the start I just felt it was a wee boy. And also the way that the pregnancy was developing was totally different from what I'd felt with my first girl, my daughter. So instead of, things going kind of according to plan, literally from the minute that I found out I was pregnant, even before, I felt quite ill, and I felt swollen, everything swelled up. By the time I was about 3 months pregnant, I looked about 6 months, to be honest. Everything swelled up. I felt quite ill. I felt temperature, it just wasn't great. But as I started going through, I was delighted, but I did feel that we were having a wee boy. And I think about 9 weeks into it, got a first wee sort of smearing of brownish blood. And it was only a little, so I didn't think too much of it. And then a wee while later I got a wee bit more, and then a wee bit more, but it was nothing big. It was maybe, just like brown smears on a pad. But had the usual stuff, and baby had a heartbeat and was small, but it was what it was. But they decided that they would keep an eye and also start doing daily urine tests and weekly blood tests. This was back in 1992. And maybe I should have cottoned on there that there was something quite wrong, but they were going to be testing for the HCG hormone, but also that's what they started testing for, and it was a bit low. You'll all know, if you've gone through a miscarriage, you'll know what I'm talking about. This has to go up the more the baby grows, but it reaches a stage, I think about 14 to 16 weeks, where it starts to drop again, and it's not really a good method or whatever. So anyway, what I was doing was either myself or my husband was dropping off the urine sample, and then we were going to work. I was working as a pharmacist at the time, and what used to happen was I would get the first load of prescriptions in the afternoon, check them, get them all out, let my dispenser deal with anything, and then at 3:30, just before the surgeries would open again for the afternoon or the evening session, I would phone the hospital to get the results, and every day it was like, it's a wee bit low, keep going, but that's okay, just keep going, hand in another urine sample, get a blood test at the end of the week. And that went on for a wee while. I still wasn't feeling great, and I certainly felt far further ahead than I was, and I just wasn't brilliant. But we got into a kind of not habit, but almost like a wee ritual. Up, sample, take it over, go to work 3:30, phone the hospital and get told either it was kind of the same, or it gone up a wee bit, or it was a wee bit, and that was all for quite a wee while. So I began to think, oh well, we're all right. Also, they had, after the first week, I think it was, of testing, they were very, very aware that there was a lot of antibodies in my system. But we weren't sure why they were in the system, but there was a chance that possibly the baby, we were fighting the baby in some way, and it wasn't, although I'm O rhesus negative, it wasn't the rhesus factor, it was another antibody that my husband at that time had in his blood, and I could have set up antibodies to it. It's called anti-CW, it's a weird thing. So anyway, these antibodies were getting higher and higher and higher. So as the human gonadotroph Korean or whatever, as the baby hormone was not rising enough, the antibodies were also going through the roof. So that was very worrying, and I was still getting staining and just not feeling great. But I remember, I think it was maybe a Thursday or a Wednesday, but I phoned the hospital. I'd done everything because I was already in a wee kind of way, get the lunchtime prescriptions out the way, get everything ready, and phone as soon as I could get the results, but also when I would have time to do it in a busy pharmacy. So I phoned and I said, what are the results? And the woman at the other side of the phone was a nurse, and she said, yeah, the test results are not good. Your baby's non-viable. And I was like, sorry, she said, the pregnancy is non-viable. And I was like, what? And I had a baby and a heartbeat, and but as of today it's non-viable. What? Excuse me, but what the fuck does non-viable mean? And she said, well, the pregnancy is not non-viable. It can't go ahead. And we need to bring you in so that we can take away the tissues. I was like, well, I had a baby. I've got a baby. And it's non-viable. And not only is the pregnancy non-viable, you're now telling me it's tissues. And I was like, no, can't take this in. And she said, look, we need to get you in because you're not very well with this either, which I appreciate. The antibodies were wearing out my system, because literally I was fighting. My whole system was trying to expel, I think, the baby, but we didn't know that much about that at the time. I was devastated. I just couldn't believe it. I don't know how I got through, but I'd phoned my husband, and between him and my mum and stuff, it was arranged that I could phone back and talk to someone who was maybe a wee bit further up the chain. So again, I was very lucky. My friend at the time was my dispenser, so she was doing everything, and everything was safe. You know, I wouldn't do that, but. So when I phoned back, I talked to someone else, and I was like, I've just been told my pregnancy is non-viable. What the hell? I said, is my baby dead? And the woman, who I believe was more of a consultant, she said, well, we can't say that the fetus is dead, but it can't live. And the sooner that we remove it, the better. And I was like, no. I said, no. I said, does my baby have a heartbeat? And she said, well, we wouldn't know that till we gave you another scan. And I said, well, okay, but you're not getting my baby till I see a scan with no heartbeat. And she was like, okay. But I really do think you need to let this go in your head and settle. So, I couldn't believe it. I mean, literally in the space of a few hours, the pregnancy was kind of okay. Nobody was giving great ways. Nobody was saying anything too much either way. It was just keep going till we see where this is going. And then it was non-viable. And then it was tissues that had to get taken away. And then it was, well, there could still be a heartbeat, but it still needs taken away. So anyway, the next day, I went and we got a scan, and there was still a heartbeat. And I said, not having anything done while the baby's got a heartbeat. And they said, fine, but please know that the baby cannot survive. Literally, it's not made enough progress. It's far too small, and with the bloods, this baby the heart will stop very soon, within maybe even a matter of days. Oh. So they said to come and see them. I think it was in the two days, and they would do an internal scan because they felt by then that the heartbeat wouldn't be there. So I did. I went back, and there was no heartbeat, and it was bad. And I'll never forget that day. Because even when I come out, it was an old hospital. And there were women all waiting to go in for their internal scans, because this was the special place that did them at the time. And they were all waiting, and you could see that some were almost excited to get in this scan. Others were terrified because they knew that to get this particular type of scan, there was probably a bad reason. And seeing me come out in tears, I really felt sorry for the women. But there was a really, really nice female consultant, and she talked to us and said we needed to go home and pack a case and come back in, and then they would the baby would not like spontaneously miscarry. It was a wee bit too far on for that. Or if it did, I would be very, very ill, because I had all these antibodies floating about in my system. So we went home, and my daughter was with my mum, and we got the other grandparents over to take her. Telling a wee child who was getting excited about having a wee brother or a wee sister was hard. And to wave her away and knowing I would need a few days to recover was very, very difficult. And I often look back and wonder how it affected her, because she was over the moon about having a wee child, a wee sister or brother. So anyway, we then went back into the hospital. I have no makeup left whatsoever. And I went into the hospital, and I was put in a 4-bedroom room with 3 other women to wait to get the procedure done. And the 3 other women were in for elective terminations, abortions. Now, whether you're pro-choice or whether you're pro-life doesn't matter here, but I think both sides could understand that having someone in a room that has lost their baby, or is having their baby taken away almost against their wishes, to be put in a room where the opposite, that maybe there's a sense of women who are there to have this done, was not a good idea. And I just remember lying down in the bed and just curling up and crying, which I don't think was good for the other women either, to be honest. But it wasn't right, and I hope and pray that that doesn't happen anymore. I think if you're losing your baby, you shouldn't really be in with women who are getting active terminations. It just is too much of a dichotomy. So anyway, I remember being wheeled down to the theatre, and I remember when I woke up, I was in a single room, which was great, but the first thing that hit me was not pain, it was emptiness. I remember feeling completely empty, hollow, because by that time we were maybe 14, 15 weeks, or thereabouts. And I felt empty and horrible and hollow, and that was that. Stayed in overnight. Remember, I think I blocked a lot of it out because there was a lot of pain, and I think I'd been nicked slightly inside the womb, so I was losing quite a lot of blood. So anyway, the following day, I went home. Maybe it was that night, I can't even remember properly. I think it was the following day. So we went home, and I remember sitting in the car, and my husband then was driving, and every bump we went over was agony for me, and yet in a way it was good because it was some sort of physical pain, and it was distracting me from the emotional pain that was going on, because I really wanted my baby. So and we got home. My friend, who was my dispenser, excuse me, I think I'm overrunning. I probably end up not having battery strength or something. Anyway, my friend, who was my dispenser, came over and brought a bottle of Tia Maria, and we just got drunk. But in that afternoon, I got a phone call from the hospital to say I needed to go back in the next day because they'd forgotten to give me my anti-D, the JAG, the injection that you get when you're rhesus negative and you've had a rhesus positive baby. I'd go back next day to the same ward, to the same people. Oh God. So now something amazing happened that night, but while I'm sad, because I want to tell you the good stuff that happened, why I'm sad is that it's 26 years soon and I still feel it as raw. And for those of you that have gone through a miscarriage, and I know people that have gone through 5, 6, 7, please know, I see you, I understand. And as women my age and older, where it was taboo to talk about miscarriage, where it was just seen as nature's way of keeping things right and stuff, and that, you know, if you look at nature, that can be the case, but when it's your baby, that doesn't mean anything to you at all. So I knew that it would get better, and it has, but come the 10th of July every year I get memories. Also, if you think having a miscarriage is bad, then what is even worse is watching your own daughter go through the same thing. And that happened this year. And I know my daughter won't mind us talking about it. I have asked her about this. But it wasn't that seeing her go through the phone calls, the blood tests, this, that and next thing. And hers was nothing to do with antibodies or anything. It was simply bad luck. It was simply she was the 1 in 4 for that thing. And again, that doesn't make any sense, but what I felt is I had a reason and she had no real reason, if you know what I mean. And I think we need reasons. Just, oh, it's one of these things, I think is worse. So anyway, this year I watched my beloved daughter go through the same thing. And I think I was sadder, if it was possible, because I knew what she was feeling. Sorry about this. And she, I am very, very, very proud of the way that she is with this. When people ask her, etc., she's talking to them about it. In fact, it was her that gave me the contact numbers that I'll put down below. And she is doing the best she can. But is actively talking to people. She's not willing for this to be a taboo, and I'm so proud of her for that. I really am so proud of her. So that having a miscarriage, but then seeing your daughter go through the same thing, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But now we have a mum and a daughter who are committed to being there for other people who've had miscarriages, committed to talking about it, committed to trying to help other people understand that haven't had a miscarriage or don't know someone that's had a miscarriage, just how devastating it is. Now, when I left the hospital after the miscarriage and after my Auntie, I wasn't given any help or directed to any organisation. In fact, I'm not sure there was one. There might have been. But it was before the internet, it was before online groups, it was before forums, and it was before maybe miscarriage started to be recognised as the trauma it is. And I went home with nothing, but my daughter went home with places she could go to talk, with the concern of some really lovely midwives, and also numbers and stuff, and a will to talk to people and support other people. And I think that's one of the reasons I decided to do the video as well. Put some notes here. Yeah, so just to follow on from the miscarriage, on this, I fell pregnant again very, very quickly. And right from the word go, these antibodies were high again, and they didn't know whether they were high from the previous pregnancy or the baby I was carrying again was the dad's blood group, and I was fighting it. And again, it's not rhesus, it's another form of antibody. So that was a joy. And what the consultant said was, your ORIS is negative. It's a real long shot that she'll actually take your blood group, because it's only 10% of the population. Sorry about that. It's only 10% of the population. And they said if we can get you to 20 weeks, if we just get to 20 weeks, we'll give the baby a blood transfusion, and that might save the baby. So it was a horrendous time. I was getting bloods taken. My file had big red stickers with antibodies all over it, and but the pregnancy felt different. It didn't feel so bad. I realised it with the antibodies and my whole system trying to get rid of a baby or whatever, that sounds terrible, isn't it? My body was trying to get rid of the baby, but to be honest, that's what was happening. My own system was attacking a foreign object in my body, and God, that just feels awful. But anyway, this pregnancy felt not as bloated, not as bad. And as the time went on, the antibodies were climbing, but then they levelled off. So they thought, well, that might be the antibodies that were from the last pregnancy, but why would they have kept gaining? They really didn't have much of a clue. They were just willing to see where it was going. And round about, I think it was about 18 weeks into the pregnancy, with my rainbow baby, they said that it's a wee miracle, because she must have taken my ORIS as negative, and they wouldn't need to give her a blood thing, because looking at you know, the scans and stuff, she was okay, and she was doing okay. And glory, glory, hallelujah, she'd taken my oresis negative. And, you know, I was over the moon, because it was kind of a, you know, it was a 10% chance we had of keeping this baby too. And she made it. And my wee rainbow baby was born. And she was fine. But what happened was very, very interesting, because I always felt that her big brother would be there looking after her. And I believe he is the guardian angel, because what happened was, we never even bothered to ask her blood group, because we were told it had to be oresis negative. We never even bothered checking. And when she was 18, she went to give blood. And when she gave blood, she was told that she actually was the blood group of her father, which meant literally that in the pregnancy she had no chance, because those antibodies that were going up and up were me fighting her, were me trying to expel this baby too. But she made it. So I had my wee rainbow baby, who's a wee miracle, because they honestly, the consultant just assumed that she'd take my blood group, because there was no other way this baby could have survived. But she did, and she doesn't have my blood group. And to all of you that are going forward to try for another baby, I hope that story is good, because even my next pregnancy didn't have much of a chance. In fact, it had a chance, and then, but theoretically it didn't have any chance, but she still made it. Stubborn thing, wee thing. Love her to bits. Is my wee rainbow baby. As I've been told, a baby after a miscarriage is called by my daughter. So that's my story. Sorry, it's horrendous, but it is the truth, and it's needed to be known. But I want to move forward. Pardon me. If I go back to the night after I was at home, after my miscarriage, I was lying in bed. I was very sore. Excuse me. Very, very sore. And couldn't settle. I was awake, and I was sort of half sitting up in bed. And my gran in spirit came forward to the bottom of my bed, and she had a wee shawl. Couldn't see the baby in it, but I knew the baby was there. And she looked at me and she said, "I've got him. He's fine. I've called him Stuart." And I remember looking at her and thinking, right, okay, we were right, it was a boy. But we'd wanted to call our baby Jack. But no, my gran said, "I've called him Stuart, don't worry." And then she walked back to me, and I was like banging at my husband. My gran is here. She's called him Stuart. Why she called him Stuart? Never knew. Actually, a few years later, I found out that there was a wee secret in our family, and it had to do with a bit of a tragedy and sadness. And the wee boy that it involved had been called Stuart. So it was obviously a name that was very precious to my gran. So she got my Jack and called him Stuart, and he's Stuart to me and everybody now. So I saw my gran with my baby, and yeah, it was I mean, even this was, I was what, 31. Now, even then I'd been seeing spirits all my life. I knew of the afterlife, I knew of things, I'd seen spirits. I was still in pharmacy, I wasn't a full-time clairvoyant yet by any means. So I knew that there was an afterlife, but to see my gran with my baby was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I knew he was safe, and I knew she would look after him. And in a way she got the wee baby that in life she never got to have, and she called him Stuart. And then, I don't know, she was one of my favourite people, my gran. She was lovely. She died when I was 16, and I had a great relationship with her. So to see her with Stuart was lovely. And to be honest, I've seen my boy in spirit many times. He's very mischievous, especially if there's a family gathering or a birthday of my daughters. He can sometimes make like the radio, well, not the radio, but like music centres go up and down. He's great with electricity flashing and stuff. And sometimes he just makes his presence felt in ways that we just know he's there. And we're all very aware of him. We're all very aware of him. One time I hadn't seen him for a wee while, and one day this big boy came in the room, and he was tall, and I looked and he had an American football strip on, and it was the American football strip of the team that his dad used to play for. And he had this lovely strawberry blonde wavy hair. And it was my boy, but he would have been something like maybe 16, 17. And he looked like he would have been at that age. He was growing up in spirit. And that's magical too. So I've seen him as a baby. I've seen him with my gran. I've seen him at various celebrations. And I've felt him many times, and I've seen him as a teenager, and it makes me feel very, very happy to know that he's growing up in spirit, and I know I will see him again. I really do. And I want you all to know that these babies just don't go nowhere. They are souls, and they find their way back up very quickly. They don't have to go through things like some bad teachings like limbo or like purgatory or whatever. They're wee souls. Some of them, just need a wee tiny time inside someone to complete their last journeys on earth. Complete their soul journeys completely, They just need that little time. And they're very special souls because they're going back up to source for good. It's lovely, it's wonderful, but it's sad. So if you've had a miscarriage, please, if you need help, reach out to someone. Call the numbers or whatever that I've put in the description down below. Write me an email if you even just want to get it off your chest. If you feel that you just need to get it down, write me an email. I can listen. But please know that for how little time your baby was in your womb, that was your baby, and let no one take that away from you. That was your time. You were a mother, and that's important to remember. I don't know what more to say. I know it's gone on, and I know it's probably, I had some notes here, and I don't know, I've probably not covered so much of what I wanted to put in, but in these situations you just have to talk from the heart. So if you need help, reach out. Honour your recovery, but give yourself time to grieve for your baby. Give yourself time to acknowledge the time that the baby was within you. And then know that every so often, like anniversaries and stuff, there will be a sadness. Now, I when I look at my family, it's odd, but I wouldn't be without my second daughter, my wee rainbow miracle. So that sometimes your head's going, oh God, maybe I had to lose him to get her, or this, that, next thing, but we don't know. We don't know. The soul contracts that these souls make. You know, we don't know down here. We can only surmise. So don't let your head get wasted, because, you know, you're going through enough without trying to figure out what it's all about. Just acknowledge your baby, acknowledge your motherhood, and reach out if you need help. And I hope this has been helpful to someone. If it has, feel free to comment. Even if that's your way of reaching out, someone will reply to you. We will get back to you. And as I say, I'm here. So many blessings. Namaste. Bye.